Well, with all this talk and with all of our evaluations on the Dallas Cowboys, there is nobody who I know that has bigger evaluations on the Cowboys and is also known as the Big Time Show. And he is joining us live. Doug Brooks, joining us here. I am certainly sure you have a counter argument of what Jeremy and I had explained about the Dallas Cowboys. But I'd love to hear from what you think. Because, I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, I'm not a Dak hater. But I love to be critical about my quarterback, though. Because I'm paying him $40 million a year. I'm expecting him to make the throws. And whether Mike McCarthy does or he doesn't make the right decision. There's an echo in the background. Hold up.
Is that me?
Or is it
I
me?
think so.
You think it's me? Okay. I don't know why, but we'll try to work it out. What about now?
Yep.
Still got an echo?
Nope.
Yeah, still got a little bit of it. Yeah.
What about now?
I think that's working. Yep.
That's good.
Perfect. So, yeah, anyway, I'd love to be critical about my quarterback because, yeah, if Mike McCarthy does or doesn't make the right call, I would hope that my quarterback, you got to sometimes improvise in certain situations and scenarios. But it's like I said, that play at Philly was where I'm like, that is what I would expect my quarterback to do. Make that throw and get it to the point where my team has the big lead. But I would love your thought and your perspective up on that. Because to me, I've always said late in the season, it is testing your situational football IQ because it gets tough in the playoffs. And I'd love to put I would love to put all of my chips in for the Cowboys and how they're running the NFC. But for some reason, I just still have question marks.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come on your show. And Jeremy, congratulations on being the new co-host of this show.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that.
You gave a whole lot of complaints. I'll say that, Jeremy, you added in on your complaints as well. And it's almost, and Jake, I know you, I've listened to you many times, and I know you're kind of a sports analogist or whatever, analysis type dude. Mm-hmm. I get all that, but let's pump the brakes just a little bit. All right, here's the first thing. We're 12-4. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, that's pretty good to me. I mean, I don't know how y'all feel about it, but we've only lost 4 games this year. So let's hold off. So we've done way more good than bad. So let's pump the brakes. Now, the part that you did not say, Jake, and I'm not here to counteract, because a lot of stuff that you said I somewhat agree with, and even you, Jeremy, just a few things that you said that I agree with. See, I'm not one of these crazy Cowboy fans. I'm one of these realistic Cowboy fans. However, what you did not do, Snake and Jeremy, you did not give the whole story. Yes, he threw the interceptions. Yes, he made a few mistakes. Some of them were not his mistakes. But the other part was what happened after that. Mm-hmm. He won the game because he made the big play. So let's tell the whole story before we do that. Now, you brought up so much, and I just go with your story because it's your show. A lot of what you're talking about, Snake, you called out some names, but there's one name that you did not call out, which is the one that needs to be highlighted the most. That's Kellen Moore. Because in the playoff game last year, prior to the playoff game against San Francisco last year, they said we have to put the ball in Tony Pollard's hands. He's our playmaker. He's this, he's that. He's this, he's that. At the end of the game, Tony Pollard only had 4 touches. And it was not a blowout game. It was not a game where the 49ers jumped out to this gigantic lead and took away the running game. Yeah. It was nothing like that. Tony Pollard last year, the guy who they said was supposed to touch the ball, did not touch the ball but 4 times last year. That lies into the hands of Kellen Moore. The question really is, since you were talking about Dak throwing it 40 times, of course, Cowboy fans do not want that, because if that be the case, then the running game obviously is not what we're looking for. I mean, it's not there present at the time. Mm-hmm. The question is how Kellen Moore is going to act. Is he going to do what worked pretty much predominantly the whole year, which is the running game? And, I mean, when Cooper Rush was there, we ran the ball down people's throat, won everything except one game. Hello. I mean, you come back, Tony Pollard made a Pro Bowl this year, and he's not even the quote-unquote starting running back. Tony Pollard made a Pro Bowl, probably going to get 1,000 yards if he plays. He's right at the doorstep now. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all there. The question is, see, you can have all the cooks in the kitchen, and let me correct somebody, whether it was you, Jeremy, and I will correct and say this. It is the general manager's job to put the best players that he can get on the field. He did that. The problem is not Jerry Jones. He's done his job. You get the team there, now it goes into the hands of the coaching staff, which is where the problem is. See, you can have all the good ingredients, but if you don't have a cook in the kitchen that don't know how to cook the meal, that's where the problem is. That's where when you look at the roster for the Pro Bowl every year, the Cowboys have just about as many Pro Bowlers every year as the entire league. So the question is, okay, if you got all these Pro Bowlers and all pros, what is the problem? Why can't y'all take it to the next level? It comes back to what you just said, Snake. It's coaching. You didn't call out Kellen Moore. I am. I'm not worried about Dan Quinn. I heard you talking about the defense. But here's the thing about the defense. What you have to remember is, all this next man up mentality. Well, that don't work when your next man is a practice squad player. That don't work. Mm-hmm. Andy Brown went out. Kelvin Joseph is not the guy. Now we got Nashawn Wright, and we had to sign a couple of guys. Of course, quarterback's going to go over that way. My God, Gardner Minshew had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith going against a rookie. I mean, give me a break. Yeah, he's supposed to light him up. They didn't go over there to Diggs' side too much, though. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you got somebody on the outside of Diggs, you're supposed to go over there. Leighton Vander Esch didn't play. Leighton Vander Esch was out. Hankins, our big defensive tackle, was out. I mean, we got major league injuries that the reason why, Jeremy, you're right when you say we're 10th. Well, if I got the number 1 offense in the league and 10th in defense, you're going to win a whole bunch of football games. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, Jeremy, even though you're right now, in my view, as a Cowboy fan, we do not look like a top 10 defense. That's because all that lets you know all the work we did before these injuries came. Mm-hmm. That's what we kind of standing on. We're giving up a whole lot of yards right now. We're giving up a whole lot of points right now to teams that don't belong. And so I agree with you on that part, Jeremy. It's just that lets you know how good we were prior to a lot of these injuries. Now, we're supposed to be getting a few of these people back, and I think we're going to be all right. So, but I'm not saying Super Bowl because you got to keep in mind the Cowboy. Any other year, Snake, Jeremy, and I'll be through with this. Any other year, a 12-4 record would probably get you a number 1 seed, or at least low less than a number 2. And I realize there's only one team that's going to get the bye. But it took a special year this year by Philadelphia to make us, with a 12-4 record, probably a 5th seed in the NFC. That's what's going to happen. We're going to be a 5th seeded team and probably have a better record, with the exception maybe of Minnesota. We're going to have a better record than every other division champ there. 12-4 usually wins your division in a normal year. I don't care what division you're in. So let's pump the brakes. The Cowboys, if you look at it, let me give you a record before Because see, people talk about the Cowboys like they 4-12. No, sir. No, ma'am. We're 12-4. The Cowboys in September 2-1, 4-1 in October, 2-1 in November, 4-1 in December. I don't know what else. I mean, come on now. I take it any day of the week. Now we can nitpick all we want, but the bottom line is, did you win? Style points count in BCS. The more you blow people out, then you get more rankings. But in NFL, all you got to do is win by 1 point. You move on.
Yeah, and it's like we pointed out before. I mean, situational football is everything come this month of January. Because by the time we get into Super Bowl weekend in February, that is where it's the end of the line. But it's all of what you do from January, and that's the biggest thing. And like my thought of it with the Cowboys is like, I know they're a very talented team. I think they got a lot of really good talented players, and Tony Pollard's had a really good year. I know from what I see, he's an explosive running back. He's a guy that is developed with speed. He's a guy that also, too, can at times be a power back. He can bust through defensive lines and can get himself more yards. It's questionable to see what the future really does look like with Zeke, but all of that will be explained, I'm sure, by the offseason and how they really handle that with the running back position. But when I look at Mike McCarthy, my big thing is because – yeah, that playoff game against San Francisco, you're right, because it did not look like a dominant game from San Francisco's end. They had some struggles. They had things that they were not they were not gelling. And Dallas was able to take advantage of that. And to that point where it was that close of a game, that's where I was like, somewhere in that situation just seemed off. And that was where, Kellen Moore, you're absolutely right. Seeing with his play calling as an offensive coordinator, you would expect that they would change up and adjust the playbook. They would adjust the situational play to where it would have worked on Dallas's end. Because I was expecting a throw. I was not expecting a run. I was like, okay, like you got the first down, but then time is now starting to expire. And I never understood that. But looking at that now, Dak, I know, is a good quarterback. Do I think he's like Mahomes or Allen? Probably not, but he is a quarterback of his own. He's one that you can, at the very least, give him to make the throw, but you can't overthrow him over 40 times. And Cowboy fans know that because by the time it's 40, it's like you're overly relying on Dak, and that's where things start to fall apart. But you're right. It is on the run game. The run game has to produce.
He needs to be throwing the ball, Jake, under 30 times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the very least, like 30 times. Like, yeah, that's perfect. Then it's like, okay, there's an equal balance. I like that. My big thing is because I'm very surprised at how the division really shaped because the Eagles are playing good. The Cowboys, I know, are playing good. But the Giants and Commanders, I mean, that's insane to me. Like, and I love Brian Dable out there in the Giants. I do think there's a lot of adjustments that need to be made with as far as player personnel. And I'm sure the Commanders are probably going to be changing a lot of things up. But looking at a lot of teams in the NFC, because I still think my tough teams are San Francisco, Philadelphia. I'm a little bit questionable when it comes to Minnesota because there are times where I do trust their offense and there are times where their defense just lets them down. So I'm like, I'm kind of curious because does it almost seem like even where the Cowboys land, my only fear is if they get to a point where they've got to literally play 3 games to win the Super Bowl, that's a tough task to ask. Am I right?
You're absolutely 100% right. The Cowboys, as it's looking, as Philadelphia, all they have to do is win 1 game to shut this thing down. They'll be the number 1 seed. You're going to have to go on the road. Even with your 12-4 record, it's obvious since we have a 2-game lead over the 6th seed, it's safe to say that the Cowboys are pretty much going to be locked in at the 5th seed, which means you're going to be playing the 4th seed. that looks to be the winner of tomorrow's game between Tampa and Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody probably is going to put their money on Tampa, and because it's just hard to bet against Brady. Everybody knows that. That means that the Cowboys would start it off in Tampa against Brady in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's dangerous. I don't care what, I don't care if his record is 9-6-10. I don't care. It's Brady. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it's respect. Now, if you ask me who's going to win, I'll say we should win. No question. But it's something about the playoffs. It's something about beating Brady that it's done took 20 years and folks still ain't figured it out. So if you're fortunate enough to get past that, probably is either Frisco, if they, San Francisco, if they come through their wild card game, or Philadelphia, who will be waiting there. You're going to have to go on the road to get it done, bottom line. So the odds are stacked against you. But if we go to Minnesota, I'll even throw that in. Well, we all know what happened when we saw them earlier. The name that you did not call out, Snake, is you said the offense and defense, but you got to get a little bit more detailed with that. And that's one name. That's Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. We all know how Kirk Cousins is. We talking about Dak this way. We all know how Kirk Cousins is when the money is on the line. He does not show up. Yep. And so that's the issue, and that's the question mark with that. But even then, you would have to, if we were to see them, you have to go to their building again in that loud place and during this time. So we're talking major league. If you're going to get there, you're going to have to go through a real gauntlet to even get there. So the odds are stacked against us. That's why I say I'm really on a game by game, week by week, even next week with Washington. If Philadelphia wins, the game next week actually means nothing, to be honest with you. I think that we need to get our guys rested. Some guys, they shouldn't be playing the whole game, and just take it from there. So I'm taking it week by week. We got a lot of boogeyman's that we got to get rid of. Brady is one. Aaron Rodgers is another boogeyman for the Cowboys. Even though hopefully he don't show up. It'd be a shame if he get there. But everybody else, we got a monster in Frisco. The matchup, the thing about Philly is that we one up on each other. They beat us without Dak early in the year. We beat them without Jalen Hurts. So what everybody want to see now is, okay, now let's see what's going to happen if Jalen and Dak are playing at the same time. Now let's see what's going on. So, it's a lot of question marks, but Cowboys we have the talent. The question is, can we put it together for about another month? And that's where Kellen Moore comes into play, and Quinn. And as you said before, situational football, because playoff games usually come down to the last 2 or 3 drives. And that's where Mike McCarthy has been getting questioned on this entire year. And I'll say this, Jake, and I'll shut it down. 12-4 last year for Mike McCarthy. 12-4 now, with a chance to even put another game up. That's 13-4. Usually a coach that wins like that, job is secure. I've been saying it all year long. Jerry Jones said it at the opening press conference. He expects a deep playoff run. If we go one and done this year, even with that 12-4 record, I'm telling y'all right now, as a Cowboy fan and lover, the seat is going to be real, real hot. And there's a certain coach that's assembling a coaching staff together right now, and Sean Payton, who conveniently is probably going to wait this thing out just to see what Coach McCarthy is going to do, and then things might get just a little interesting, even though I don't think Sean's coming because he's going to want too much, and Jerry Jones is not going to give it to him.
But you got to trade for him.
I'm just saying. Yeah, exactly.
You got to trade for him.
Power. Jerry Jones not giving away power, so I never believed Sean was coming. But that name is going to come up if we go one and done, even with them 12 wins he got this year. So, unfortunately, a guy that wins as much as McCarthy has, forget the year that Dak got hurt the whole year. Right. Other than that, this man has won, bottom line. But it's not going to mean nothing. He's got to win in January. So, unfortunately for him, that's where he is.
Yeah, that's the big assignment. I mean, there's a difference between regular season play and postseason play. I mean, you see it with a lot of different coaches. I mean, you watch Andy Reid, you watch a little bit of Sean McDermott, and even times where you would watch several other coaches who've been there, and they understand it. They know that January gets tough, and it gets tougher down the stretch. I mean, Mike McCarthy's very much used to it. I mean, even with his tenure in Green Bay. Now, some of that could either be Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers at times, but there were points where Mike McCarthy would understand like what those pressures are. So I do think there's a boost to that. But you're absolutely right. If they go one and done, I'd be having question marks too, and I would be at the very least seeking my options as well if I'm Jerry Jones, because you got to have this team going over the top. They could be talented, they can win games, but if they're not winning the bigger games in the postseason come January, that's where it's going to get hotter than before. So, but I do want to speak about this. So the Cowboys, they signed T.Y. Hilton. A lot of the talks, people thought OBJ is going to go to the Cowboys. It seems reasonable. Seems like a fit. They don't sign him. Instead, they go in for a veteran like T.Y. Hilton, which I don't think is bad. How has his presence, though, with the Cowboys and with Dak Prescott as well, having another weapon to throw to, is that somebody that is a how do I say this? Is this somebody that's kind of like the boost to this offense that really can help, even for some of the young guys like Noah Brown and several others on this roster? Is he kind of that guy that really does share a lot of his veteran experience and really helps to shape up a little more of the wide receiver corps?
You just answered the question, Snake. I'll give you the scenario that happened after the Thursday night game against the Titans. CeeDee Lamb at the end of the game, jersey exchange with T.Y. Hilton, and had him sign it. Took it home with him. Now, the conversation and the reasons why will only be answered by CeeDee Lamb. Why did he want his jersey? Mm-hmm. I think that what you just said happens. If you listen to T.Y. and CD in some of the interviews that they had, locker room interviews, you hear CD talk about the influence, the certain little nuances of the game that has been taught by, was been given by T.Y. Hilton to him. That's where the effect of it comes. And T.Y. obviously still can play. He is a guy that if you don't respect him, he told everybody that if you don't respect him, he's going to run by you, number one, and he's going to bust you. And that's what he's done so far. And because of that, he is a perfect number 3 receiver that I believe his role is going to even increase even more as the weeks go by because it's scary for a defensive coordinator if we run a 3 wide receiver set to see CeeDee Lamb, T.Y. Hilton, and Michael Gallup out there. You got to respect that. If you don't, you're going to get 8 alive. So T.Y. still can play, but I think his major influence is in the locker room. You can tell by the numbers. Even with Amari Cooper gone and Cedric Wilson gone, the word was, well, who other than CD, who does the Cowboys have? That's what everybody's been saying the whole year. But even with just the roster that is there in the wide receiver room, CeeDee Lamb has 90 over 100 receptions, almost right at 1,300, well, close to 1,300 yards. And keep in mind, he has all of that without Dak Prescott playing for 5 games, being hurt. So you can only imagine what his numbers would be if Dak would have been playing. Mm-hmm. So this kid has stepped up tremendously, and he's getting all the double teams. He's getting all the attention, and he's still a Pro Bowl wide receiver. And I'm talking about major yards. So T.Y. Hilton, to answer your question again, his effect is both on the field, but I think it's most importantly, I believe, is helping a young receiver, which C.D. Lamb is, take him to the next level. Now, since T.Y. has been there, the question has been, has what he learned from him applied to the field? We don't know. C.D. can answer that, and other than that. But let's put it this way to really answer your question. It's a benefit to have T.Y. there rather than a liability. So,
yeah, that's the best way of looking at it.
Well, yeah, and not only that as well, he could be, another distraction besides CeeDee Lamb to take that pressure off of CeeDee Lamb for defenses to plan for as well. Because as you saw Thursday night too, he got targeted quite a bit. So
you hit the nail on the head, Jeremy. You hit the exact nail on the head. Put it this way: if you're a defensive coordinator, you're really not game planning for Noah Brown.
Yeah.
But if you're a defensive coordinator, you are paying attention to T.Y. Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
So that's you're absolutely right on that.
No, yeah, absolutely. Because I would rather be keeping my eyes on the veteran receiver, because even though that the youngster, I mean, there are times where he'll make plays and he'll benefit the offense for it. But looking at the veteran experience of it too, because he's been in the league, he's ran several different routes. Even with the tenure he's played with Andrew Luck in Indianapolis, he knows exactly the spots that he wants to be in when he's healthy. And that's where I think, that truthfully does benefit. And that is a good way of looking at it too, because I never really saw OBJ like really coming into Dallas at times. I felt like it was an option, but I don't think it was something that the Cowboys themselves, looking deeper into the picture, that was something they were going to be sold on. I think they were going to look in a different route, and then that's where they came up with T.Y.
If he would have been ready, he would be a Cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not ready. That's you know what I'm saying? Everybody's saying, well, he get him ready. He won't play the regular season. He would play the postseason. Yeah. Well, you got to get you just can't go out there. You got to practice. You got to know what you're doing. You got to get in rhythm with your quarterback, and he wasn't even ready to practice. Yeah. So, I mean, the Cowboys did the right move by not signing him. Forget the splash play, which, I don't think that was. They had T.Y. probably in their back pocket the whole time thinking about it. So it's a smart move. T.Y. was injury prone as well. However, it does help you when you had a whole year off and your body can, recuperate as best as it can. You just hope that T.Y. is not as, fragile or injury prone like he usually been. If he can just hold out for another month, then we should be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 quick things before we let you go. So I talked about the Derek Carr situation, and I do think obviously there's always been some turmoil with the Raiders and such. And I do think it would be a better scenario for Derek Carr to take his talents elsewhere. Now, there have been 2 teams that in the NFC East where they've kind of looked at their quarterback scenario, and that's the Commanders and the Giants. Depending on how the year finishes off, I do think he's a real good quarterback. I do think there are a lot of tangibles that he does have. I even look at it with the Commanders situation because he's got an offense. He's also got a real good defense. Depending on the head coaching scenario, it could change. Like the owner, they may have a potential new ownership. They may have a new coaching staff. Could it be a possibility we may see Derek Carr in the NFC East? And how did the Cowboys really kind of plan for that going into next season? I know it's too far ahead, but could that possibly be, something that could happen for the NFC East if Derek Carr was to land there?
First of all, when it comes to Derek Carr, is this year you got to be fair but compared to his past years, you can give a projection.
Yeah.
The reason why I say you got to be fair because his number one weapon, and contrary to what people like to believe, Devontae just got there this year.
Yeah.
His number one weapon was Darren Waller.
Mm-hmm.
Waller just came back. He was hurt.
Yeah.
Renfro was his number two option.
Mm-hmm.
Renfro has been gone the whole year, and he just came back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, you got to be fair. Like, can you really evaluate him, fairly when he doesn't have the horses to run the race? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
However, the balancing act is that when you look at his years past, we're running into the same record, the same result. The Raiders not making the playoffs. That's usually what the results are. And so you got to kind of question it. I think what it is that this is a case of Carr having huge expectations that are never met, and because they're not met, people kind of categorize him as, so I even heard some people call him trash. He's nowhere near trash.
No.
He's good.
Yeah.
The question is, what are your realistic expectations for him? And if he comes to the NFC East, I don't think that he's coming to the Giants because, I believe that the coach there is slightly believing in Daniel Jones. What we got to keep in mind about the Giants is if the Giants win tomorrow, they're in the playoffs.
Yep.
Nobody expected the Giants to be in the playoffs this year at all. So we got to give credit to Daniel Jones for real. I mean, who does he have at wide receiver? Kenny Galladay is nowhere to be found. They traded away Tory to the 49ers. Tony, I'm sorry, to the 49ers.
Kadarius
I mean, who does he have? I mean, who is their tight end? Who is it? I don't know the name. So really the weapon that he only has is himself and Saquon offensively. Look what he's done. So are you really going to give up on, Daniel Jones without really, probably evaluating him? So I don't count that. Washington, however, if it was a team that, I guess that can come into the conversation, but then the question becomes, and I mean, are you gonna throw away Wentz like that? I mean, his money is there. I mean, the contract is there. I mean, are you gonna ship him off? I mean, what are you gonna do? And if you're trading him away, if you're trading that type of dude away, when I say Wentz, is the upgrade really Carr? I mean, how much of an upgrade? I mean, Carr probably is better, but I'm saying when you're saying we're gonna throw you away, you better be bringing somebody in that's really up there.
Oh man!
So
could you imagine
let me throw this one in, Snake. Let me really give you a hot take. Well, I ain't gonna give it to you because I just thought about it. They're gonna franchise him. But here's the franchise. I don't know what the franchise numbers are for a quarterback. If you get it. But what if Lamar Jackson ended up in Washington?
Man, the
reason why I'm saying that is because I don't know what the franchise numbers are. And if Baltimore, common sense would tell you that if they're not going to sign him long term, you're going to franchise him. But what is that number? And if you're going to pay that number, then, which is highly unlikely because you didn't pay him now when you could maneuver the contract and all that kind of stuff.
Winning 80% of your games.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, what if Lamar's just this upset that it done took y'all 2 years to sign me when it was very easy, to do it? What if Lamar Jackson leaves or you say he ain't playing on no franchise tag or whatever and end up in Washington?
That
would be scary.
Yeah. Scary Terry McLaurin. and you've got
Logan
a running
Thomas,
back by
Antonio
Canadian.
Gibson, Brian Robinson, and that defense who's been missing Chase Young all year. And
God,
they come
that would
back
look
there.
so good on that offense. And all you'd have to literally focus on is that offensive line. That is literally all you'd have to do.
I'm just throwing it out there as a bunch of what ifs and fantasy football type stuff. But I believe Lamar's that's why he's not playing.
Right.
Because he's ticked off. You see what I'm saying? And he's not going to risk his body. He got a PCL tear, and y'all haven't paid him. Why would he risk injury? And Baltimore
he's got a league MVP on his belt.
Come on,
and they're still not paying him.
Now that is worth getting rid of Wentz for.
Right.
A Lamar Jackson type. Not a David Carr. I only brought that up just to say that.
Well, on top of that, the Ravens are being completely stingy as well, and they told him basically, go earn it. You think we should pay this money, go earn it. And
which is an insult for them to even say that to him in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. Like you prove it year. That is to him, that's an insult. So I got a feeling that Lamar Jackson and his mother, who is his agent, don't forget that. I believe they're kind of ticked off at the Baltimore Ravens organization.
I don't blame them.
And I don't think that they're going to be too quick to sign. They're basing everything off Deshaun Watson contract, which is fine. But Baltimore, of course, that's been the kind of like the stalemate, the guaranteed money part. So I'm just throwing it out there. You can only tick off somebody so much before they do something about it. That's all I'm saying.
That
Russell Wilson says hi.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. See what I'm saying? Even though y'all stuck with Russell Wilson up there, so y'all through, you ain't going nowhere. But I'm saying that Lamar Jackson and his attitude is what's going to be kind of interesting to watch. From now on. It's going to be interesting when he comes back for the playoff game with Baltimore. It's going to be interesting to see how his body language, how he talks, about that situation, because he can't be happy with the organization at all. Can't be. No way.
Oh, yeah. And the last thing you would want is a type of resentment with an organization just while you're up in the playoffs. That's not a good look for the franchise. That's.
And the only reason why I said that is because, trust me, as much as Ron Rivera loved to run the ball, you can imagine him and Antonio Gibson in the zone read. That's scary.
I mean, he did have Cam Newton as a runner. He did that.
Love that.
That's why.
It's funny because I'd seen the narrative several times, like on social media. I was like, I don't know about that. And now explaining that kind of makes sense.
The wild card again is, you wouldn't sign them to make it, when it would have been convenient for the franchise.
Right.
But if you're going to pay him a franchise tag, you have crippled the team for the next year, because you can't go get no free agents to help them. They're missing a number one receiver. They still don't have one. All that. I mean, what can you do? You can't help them.
And Washington seems right because Terry McLaurin's already locked in. And I think they do have Cam Sims, who's another young wide receiver that also comes in. And you have Jahan Dotson, who looks real good. I can see
that is a perfect landing spot for him if it happens. Now that would scare me to have him in my division for the next
that's gotta be good for Washington fans because they deserve that. Like they deserve like a different look of that culture too. Because I mean, how many years can we say that much we've watched Dan Snyder and we're just like, oh dear God, just
that would be scary for me for the next 8 years or so in my division to see him twice a year with that team, and that would be real scary for me.
But hey, they would make it Beasts of the East, right?
Yes.
If they were to franchise tag him, they would have to pay him somewhere in the neighborhood of 46 to 50 million.
See what I'm saying? So really, I mean, when you do that, what other options do you have? As far as the rest of the team goes, you just gonna have enough money to just sign your draft picks. I mean, that's it. So I mean, you know, everybody's saying it might get done. You know, they'll be smarter if they do get it done. But I'm factoring in. I'm factoring in that he's very upset with the organization, and he's hurt by it. His body is hurt right now, and no quarterback don't want, with the way he plays ball. No quarterback don't want to get on the field risking when I ain't got no contract. You know, guaranteed money coming the following year.
Yeah, I don't blame him at all.
He put his heart and soul into that team for so many years, and gave that organization a face of the franchise. And I understand he had, was it John Harbaugh as his coach?
Yep, John Harbaugh was the coach.
I get all that, but he still put all his heart and soul in that team. And the minute he asked them just for a nice, healthy, extended contract, they tell him no. Essentially,
which let's throw that in, Jeremy. Which they knew was coming.
Yeah,
they knew he was up. You know what I'm saying? You know, after Deshaun got paid, after Dak got paid, after Josh Allen got paid, they already knew.
You can only imagine too when Justin Herbert gets paid.
Oh my God, we talking $50 million a year. When Joe Burrow gets paid, we talking $50 million a year.
Talking north of that, Aaron Rodgers is already at $50 million a year now.
We're going higher. So I mean, this thing ain't glowing. And Lamar Jackson, as you said, Snake, he's got credentials. He's an MVP. He's a Pro Bowler. He's all pro. And he's young. Let's throw that in.
He's got the stripes. Oh yeah.
I mean, so Baltimore done put themselves in the corner here. That's all I'm saying. Because I promise you, another organization will give it to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, it's been so good talking with you, Doug. Always good to have your inputs. Real quick for all of our audiences, where can they find the Big Time Show and tune in?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's very simple. Go to YouTube. Just search out, as you see right above me, the Big Time Show. Subscribe to that. You can find me on Facebook as well. The Big Time Show. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Big Time Lou, L-O-U, at Big Time Lou. I'm everywhere, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those different spots. I appreciate, Snake, you even thinking about me. You didn't have to. Jeremy, appreciate your input, and you're a smart dude too. So Snake went and found somebody just as smart as he is in sports, and I appreciate you guys even thinking about me, allowing me to come on. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, man, always. And you're always welcome back up onto the show. Always love chopping Cowboys with you. And from the look of you, it looks like you really are all in on those Wolverines, right? We're going to see a big-time game.
I'm a little older than both of you guys, so I'm 49 years old, almost 50. And I've been rocking with Michigan since 1982. Back in the Anthony Carter days, when Anthony Carter was a wide receiver. So this is all I know. So obviously I'm excited today for it. It's gonna be rough, but I think that we got a good team that I think we should get past TCU.
Yeah, and
then depending on, well, it really don't, if we are fortunate to get past TCU, the world will want to see us against Ohio State again. I mean, what better drama is that?
Now that could be interesting because
but then if we face Georgia, what I hope is that we don't have another classic case of the SEC offensive linemen dominating the Big Ten defensive linemen. It'd just be a scrimmage game, which is usually what happens when a Big Ten team plays during this late, plays the SEC team. Hopefully we got enough this year to make it a game this year. But go Wolverines, go blue.
All right, Doug Brooks on the Big Time Show. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you, Doug.
Go Wolverines. I'm pulling for you guys against TCU, that's for sure. And the college football playoffs, it's going to be electric, so I can't wait for it. But
appreciate you,
man.
Take
care of yourself, and we will officially see you in the new year, my friend. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, and the Cowboys will be there too. Yes, sir. We 12-4, not 4-12, baby.
All right. Take care, man.